All right, hello everyone. We are here with Christine Edwards today of Amplify Charlotte, and Christine's very involved in the community, and that is what we are learning about today in week 8. So, Christine, thank you for being here, and let's get going. If you could introduce yourself by letting us know kind of where you grew up, some schools you attended, degrees you earned, and your current positions.
Sure. Thank you so much for having me here today. I'm so pleased to be here and just to share my resources and my experiences with you all. So, I'm Christine Edwards, and I'm the founder of Amplify Charlotte. I founded Amplify Charlotte in 2018. It was the summer of 2018, and it's based on the idea of helping communities grow with dignity. We founded Amplify Charlotte on the idea of voice representation and change, and just helping people to express themselves and to get their voices heard in front of local government. So the reason that I started Amplify Charlotte was because in my professional career, I worked my entire career in local government. And what I mean by that is my job, all of my jobs have been in some community outreach capacity within a local government, like a city government, county government, and even a university. So here in Charlotte, when I graduated from UNC Greensboro, I did have my degree in sociology and African American studies. And so I didn't really know what I wanted to do, and I graduated in 2010. And so we were experiencing a recession that really caused me to rethink some things. I was working at the Greensboro Housing Coalition. And, being a sociology major, I thought I wanted to be a social worker. And so I had this internship with the Housing Coalition, and I got to do some really awesome work with some awesome clients and just helping people by distributing vouchers, whether it be vouchers for a single evening or vouchers for transportation in Greensboro so that people could get around. I also did some administrative duties. I did data entry. I did pretty much everything. And so that was in 2010. It was one of my first internships and was my first experience working in the public sector. And so I really loved it. I really enjoyed it, but I didn't think that I could make a big enough impact. I felt like I was too close, or I was working a little too closely to the community that I was serving, which there's no problem with that. But being a social worker and being an on the ground sort of direct support, it really takes a special kind of person. And also, I also had to think about my financial responsibilities as well in terms of working at a nonprofit. And so I don't want to bore you guys, but I ended up going to grad school at UNC Charlotte and I just picked up right where I left off and started studying public administration with a concentration in urban management and policy.
That's awesome. And like so many of us, I don't know anyone who went to school for one thing and ended up graduating with that degree and going into that field. So,
Right.
students, if you're not 100% certain about what you want to do for the rest of your life, that's fine. None of us know. So that's great. And Christine, now throughout your higher education career and even in high school, if you were, can you talk a little bit about how you were involved as a student that maybe led you to these career paths?
Absolutely. So in high school, even going as far back as middle school, I was a student athlete and I ran track and I played volleyball. And I have an older brother, and he also, was involved in sports. And so it was really important for me to be around him and to be around my friends and my peers in school, and then just kind of try different things out. I have not always been super outgoing, but I felt like being a part of a team really helped me get out of my shell in middle school. And then moving into high school, I started getting better at track and running, started getting a little bit better, and just kind of thinking about how I can stay involved after school, because that's where all my friends were at. It really is like a social thing, but it's also really good for your development. So I was a student athlete. And then in high school, I participated in Right Moves for Youth, Honor Society, Key Club, which is like a community service club. As I mentioned before, I had those internships with the Greensboro Housing Coalition. And then after that, I had another internship while I was in grad school. It was actually a fellowship. Um, and so, I was always just involved. And then even in high school, when I was involved in these clubs, I had a position, I had a leadership position where I was either the treasurer or secretary or even president. And so I was picking up those leadership skills as well.
That's awesome. Would you think your experience as leaders in those organizations has helped you in your professional career?
I do think so. I think that it has kind of groomed me to know what to expect in terms of meetings, kind of the leadership process or the civic process. You got Robert's Rules of Order. And so being involved in you know, these clubs early on, I learned how things worked. I learned how to make a motion, how to vote, how to do some of these things that we see happening and we see our US leadership doing right now. I totally think it set me up for what I'm doing today. My friends in college used to pick on me because they would say that I love to go to meetings. Like, oh, you always have a meeting. You're always going to a meeting. But I was, it was really important for me to be the, junior student government representative, for my class. It was really important to me. And just kind of trying to push projects across the finish line, not necessarily that I was leading, but I was just being a cheerleader for others and just trying to get things done at school. And so, yeah, I used to get picked on for going to so many meetings, but I do think it set me up to understand like what's going on in our world today.
Well, I'm glad those experiences helped you, and those people picking on you, I'm sure they're envious of you now. So, jokes on them. So I mentioned that you are the CEO of Amplify Charlotte, correct? So you gave a really great presentation during Sensoria Week this year about Amplify Charlotte and civic engagement. But if you can introduce to these students kind of what Amplify Charlotte is, what your mission is, and what kind of work you do.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for those kind words. I really appreciated the opportunity, to talk to the Sensoria group. So Amplify Charlotte is a community engagement consulting firm, and we focus on helping communities grow with dignity. And the way that we do that is through hosting public workshops and feedback sessions. So we are what's called a B2B business. And so B2B means business to business. And so I work with other towns, municipalities, nonprofits, universities. I work with other organizations, and I help to expand their community engagement capacity by consulting them through plans, like strategic plans to host these community engagement meetings. And so that's what I do. That's really the business side of Amplify. Now, the other side of Amplify is because if we're able to bring in business and keep our clients happy, then we're able to provide free resources for the community to learn how to stay involved and get involved. Now, the core of our business is all about voice, representation, and change. And so that comes from my years of working in local government. I noticed that in local government, there's a lot of great information available. However, our government does not always make it easy to understand or even find. And so that's what I started doing with Amplify. And I wanted to make it super low cost and free, if possible, for everybody to consume. And so right now, what that looks like is we have resources listed on our website. We have a lot of social media content, a lot of newsletter content that we share with people on how to get involved locally here in Charlotte, Mecklenburg. So yeah, but in 2018, when we started it, we really started with that in mind. We got our start in 2018 through a grant through the Knight Foundation, and it was a $5,000 grant. And with this grant, we actually created kits. So we created these physical civic kits, and they're actually boxes. And so we compiled all the information. We had information from the city government, county government, the Board of Elections. We have a list of all the city council members and their names and their phone numbers and email addresses. We also have some original content that we put together called the Civic Handbook. And I actually have a couple of copies right here I can show you. Because I was working on this. Earlier today. We're actually going to be putting kits together for a festival this Friday. Really excited about that. And so we have these handbooks that we came up with that voice representation and change curriculum inside.
That's really cool, and I've seen that work that you've done with the civic engagement kits, and then also some of the flyer, the thing you just showed. What was that? I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, the handbook.
The handbook. That's right.
Absolutely.
That was the word I was looking for.
The thing I like most about the handbook really is that we actually have templates inside. We have templates on how to write a letter to your elected officials. We have templates on how to make a public comment. You know, when you go and speak in front of the board or you go and speak in front of the city council, how do you know what to say? How do you know how much time you have? And so we have very specific examples of how to get engaged inside of this handbook. And so this is the information that we love to be able to provide for free. But again, our business model is that we do provide that direct consulting for other organizations as well.
That's fantastic, and you know, especially with the times we're living in right now and everything going on, those things are very important to know. And it's not often that, you know, there's not really a civic engagement class or a how to be involved in your community kind of class, you know. So what you're doing is really important, and we will talk after this, but I I will put in an order for those kits for the students of the Leadership Academy, because it is important, and these students being involved in this is a first step into getting really involved in the community. So that's fantastic. So let's go. Okay, so this next question, are there just any ways you'd like to let students know about that they can be involved in Charlotte? Any resources or just organizations that you would recommend? Or, you know, does Amplify Charlotte have any opportunities for student leaders to be involved with, things like that?
That's a great question. I would love to build an opportunity for student leaders. And I think given more time, we can work together to build something like that. So I'm actually going to jot that down, because I like that idea of kind of like a civics 101 for student leaders, or really just for anybody who's interested. But to answer your question, in Charlotte right now, the city of Charlotte actually provides, I think it's like a 10-week academy. I'm not entirely sure, but it's a free academy for anybody. I think you do have to be 18 or older, and you do have to live within city limits. It's called the Civic Leadership Academy, or CLA. And I want to say that they've had about 4 cohorts of this, and they do it, I think they do it once a year. So it's that 10-week class where you hear from city government leaders, you hear from county government leaders, the recycling leadership, you hear from all different services offered by our local government. And there's an application process. I think there's just a brief application that you do have to fill out on their website. So that's a really good class to go through, just to learn how things work, how our local government works. The other one is through the League of Women Voters. And there's really only a handful here. And it's bad because our city is so big and growing, and you know, and we really only have a handful of organizations that are providing this. So the League of Women Voters is another free, you know, nonprofit group that you can sign up for their Civics 101 workshop. Again, it is a multiple week academy to where you are hearing from your leadership from all different levels of government here in Mecklenburg County. So that's 2 that I can think of. There's another one that's in Spanish, and I don't know the name of it, but I want to say it's called Comunidad de Colectiva, basically the community collective. And if you look that up, then you might be able to find when their next class is. So those are the 3 that I know of: the Civic Leadership Academy, Civics 101 hosted by the League of Women Voters, and then you have the Spanish speaking Leadership Academy, which I believe is called Comunidad de Colectiva. Other resources that I will just go over quickly, and I just jotted these down because I tried to think of a couple, but then more, kept coming up the more that I kept Googling and thinking about it. So I'll just read this off of the list. Is that okay if I do that? Okay. So these are organizations or websites that can help you from a national level. Vote411.org, Ballotpedia, Vote.org, USA.gov, Vote.gov, Change.org, thepetitionsite.com, and then you have the Vote With Me app, Outvote.io, which is another web-based app. And then you have some company called Hustle, which uses peer-to-peer texting to help political campaigns text their constituents. Have you been getting a lot of text messages this election cycle?
I haven't been getting any. I haven't heard of that yet. A texting service for voting, but it seems like voting is very important. We haven't really talked about that, but a lot of the resources you shared is voting centric, and
Mm-hmm.
that's how you make those changes that you want to see.
Absolutely. I think that technology companies are starting to use technology to reach people, where they're at, like the texting services, to get out these really important messages around voting. And when it comes to voter engagement or just community engagement in general, here in Mecklenburg County, I will point you to these organizations. Well, again, these are more so about voting, but these are the organizations I'm going to point you to. So you have ncsbe.gov, and that's the North Carolina State Board of Elections. mecnc.gov, and that's the Mecklenburg County government website. And then you have the League of Women Voters, and you're going to go on their website and you're going to select Charlotte Mecklenburg chapter. Other great organizations to get involved with, of course, Central Piedmont, the United Way. I'm trying to think of some of these larger organizations that people might know of. Central Piedmont, United Way, the Foundation for the Carolinas also supports a lot of other smaller nonprofits. And, I could go on and on, but really, I really want people to be able to do the research. And if they have specific questions about specific organizations, I could help get them in touch.
Yeah, that's all wonderful. Thank you for sharing all that. Uh, you'll also be presenting in the same meeting as Kelvin Chege, who is the Central Campus Service Learning Coordinator. So he will also have some community resources for the students. But to wrap things up, do you have any parting words of wisdom for the students? And then I know I mentioned if you had a PowerPoint slide that you could share with your contact info. If you kind of want to do your words of wisdom and then share that PowerPoint for a little bit, and then we can close it off with our goodbyes.
Sure. So my parting words are kind of in the spirit of what our community is going through right now and what the Black community is going through right now. I just want to tell people to just take care of themselves and to love themselves and love one another. I think it's important that we hold leadership accountable. I think it's important to find your voice and always use your voice. So that's all I'm going to say. I think it's so important to use your voice. So do that. Whatever you need to say, whatever you need to communicate, do it. Don't wait on permission. Don't ask anybody. Literally just say what you need to say. Because at the end of the day, I think that really it keeps us safe and it keeps us healthy. So again, thank you so much for having me. I actually have my contact information right here. If you want to go to our website, you can go to our website, amplifycharlotte.org. You can also find us at amplifycharlotte.com, and you can find us online at amplifyclt. That's our
That's
contact
awesome.
center.
Thank you so much. And you're going to be at the actual presentation too to answer questions for students. So this, we're going from this recording to live. So students, if you have any questions, you can now ask Christine your questions. But again, thank you, Christine.
Thank you so much.